Living in a conservative nation often restricts one's freedom of expression. Many individuals face backlash and even jail time simply for opposing societal norms, despite causing no harm. And when a crime is committed against them, people often seek alternative explanations rather than acknowledging it as a hate crime. The case we will discuss exemplifies this issue. In 2017, a trans woman named Sameera Krishna was assaulted and murdered by a gang. This is her story. Do you get as many spam calls and texts as I do? It feels like every day my phone is blowing up with these annoying messages. It's gotten so bad that I don't answer calls from numbers I don't recognize. One major reason for all these spam texts and calls is that big companies can't keep our data safe. I don't know if you remember the Ticketmaster hack, the one where the data of 560 million users was put up for sale on the dark web. The stolen data included full names, addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, and even credit card information. So think about it, your personal information is incredibly valuable. If it falls into the wrong hands, there are countless ways you could be scammed. Identity theft, unauthorized bank transactions, credit fraud, and the list goes on. It's dangerous not to have any protection against these threats. And that's why I recommend using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura alerts you when your data has been part of a breach or leaked on the dark web. It provides fast fraud alerts if anyone tries to use your data to access your credit or bank accounts. Plus, it removes your information from data broker websites, so you get less spam. You also get features like transaction monitoring, a VPN, antivirus, a password manager, parental controls, and identity theft insurance, all in one app at an affordable price. So go to aura.com/darkasia and try your first 2 weeks for free and take control of your data with Aura. Malaysia, a predominantly Muslim nation, is heavily influenced by conservative cultural values and religious beliefs. Although Malaysia is often perceived as tolerant and inclusive, it remains unwelcoming to the LGBTQA+ community, including transgender individuals who face severe mistreatment. In Malaysia, transgender people suffer numerous human rights violations due to persistent transphobia. The Minister of Religious Affairs, Zulkifli Mohammed Al-Bakri, has endorsed actions against transgender individuals, legitimizing state brutality. Sharia law, which criminalizes cross-dressing, further encourage prejudice and violence. Religious authorities often target transgender people, leading to arbitrary arrests and physical assaults. Malaysia's systemic persecution and discrimination significantly impact transgender people's human rights. These violations undermine their dignity, equality, and freedom from discrimination, fostering a climate of fear and exclusion. A tragic example of transphobia occurred in 2017 with the murder of Sameera Krishna. Her death received little attention as the police reportedly downplayed the incident despite pressures from human rights activists. The police labeled the case as mere robbery and remained silent. Let us delve into the details to understand what truly happened to Sameera Krishna. Born in 1991, Sameera Krishna was the youngest of 4 children. Although born male, she realized as she grew up that she identified more as a female and felt more comfortable that way. Embracing her true self, she transitioned and was fortunate to have the support of her family and friends who accepted her as a woman. Samira was known for her jovial, soft-spoken nature and was well-liked by everyone, including her older siblings. Samira made a living as a florist. While details about her daily life are sparse, her family noted that she was doing well and always made time for prayer. Despite facing societal hardships as a transgender person, she remained strong, confident, happy, and kind, living her life to the fullest. However, her life took a tragic turn on February 9, 2015. It's unclear what triggered the incident, but a friend mentioned a financial dispute between some men and another friend of Samira's. These men, for unknown reasons, targeted Samira, kidnapping her and taking her to Simpang Lima Cemetery. What followed was horrific. According to her close friend's account, Samira was tied up with barbed wire, stripped naked, and sexually assaulted with bottles. Her captors used pliers to twist and tear her nipples and beat her severely. The captors then put her back into their car, presumably to move her to another location. Fortunately, the driver got into a traffic dispute, drawing police attention. Upon inspecting the car, the police found the bruised and pleading Samira. They immediately rescued her, though some of the men escaped and only 2 were arrested. After the incident, Samira was never the same. Her vibrancy and warmth diminished, a common aftermath for survivors of sexual assault who often feel robbed of a part of themselves. The 2 men caught were charged under the Kidnapping Act, which mandates the death penalty. Samira was supposed to testify at their trial, but that day never came. On the early morning of February 23, 2017, 2 years after the assault, people in Kuantan discovered an unconscious person lying in a pool of blood on the sidewalk of Jalan Pasar. Despite calling for help, it was too late. The person was already dead. And the victim was Sameera Krishna. A forensic report revealed she had been attacked with a knife, suffering slashes to her hands, arms, head, and legs, causing her to lose some of her fingers. She was also shot 3 times, once in the head. This devastating event shocked her family and friends. Suspiciously, Samira was supposed to testify as the main witness in her assault case just a month later. According to CCTV footage obtained by the police, 3 individuals were involved in the violent murder of Sameera Krishna. However, the images from the footage were unclear, making it difficult to identify the suspects accurately. A few weeks later, 5 men were arrested in Klang in connection with Samira's murder. The suspects, aged between 19 and 30, were related by blood and were apprehended at their home before being taken to Kuantan. However, these suspects were later released due to a lack of evidence. Although the magistrate's court granted the police a 7-day remand for these men, the police were unable to gather sufficient evidence in time, leading to minimal updates on the case. Now, rumors began circulating that Samira was murdered as an act of revenge. It was speculated that those involved in her kidnapping wanted to prevent her from testifying against them in court. As the sole survivor and eyewitness of her assault, Samira's testimony was crucial for the prosecution. However, the police couldn't establish a strong enough connection to support this theory. The police also struggled to classify Samira's murder as a hate crime against transgender individuals. Senior Assistant Commissioner Datuk Raja Sharum Raja Abdullah acknowledged the potential motive from the previous rumors, but insisted that it remained a murder case without definitive evidence of being a hate crime. The case proceeded as a standard murder investigation, but progress stalled, leaving the case unresolved for a long time. The police's failure to bring justice and their refusal to label this incident as a hate crime sparked outrage among activists and supporters of the transgender community. Many believed that discrimination against minorities, such as transgender people, hindered the investigation. Activists demanded further investigation and a resolution to Samira's case, urging the authorities to acknowledge and address the underlying issues of bias and discrimination affecting the case's progress. Rights groups, including transgender activist Nisha Ayub and awam.org, have criticized the insensitivity and disrespect shown by the media in misgendering Samira. Awam criticized the media's use of male pronouns and referring to her as a man in woman's disguise. They argue that this misgendering not only degrades and dehumanizes transgender people, but also shows a complete disregard for the trauma and loss faced by Samira's family and loved ones. Transgender activist Nisha Ayub, founder of the transgender rights group Justice for Sisters, also expressed her outrage over the lack of effort in investigating Samira's case. She, like Awam, condemned the insensitivity and noted that the case was growing cold, with little hope of being solved anytime soon. The questions of who killed Samira and why remain unanswered, known only to God at this point. The loss of Samira's life was deeply felt by her friends and family, particularly her mother and uncle. Samira's mother recalled that the last time she spoke to her daughter was on her birthday, a month before Samira's death. Samira's cheerful voice, wishing her happy birthday, was a cherished memory. Samira's uncle was equally devastated by her brutal murder. He last saw her in December 2016 when they chatted about life and work. Samira seemed happy with her florist job, and he couldn't understand why anyone would want to harm her so viciously. He hoped that the perpetrators would be brought to justice. Transgender individuals in Malaysia face a perilous situation. Malaysia remains one of the few countries that still penalizes people for identifying as a gender other than their assigned sex at birth. Government persecution of transgender individuals has had profound effects. Reports of violence, assaults, and prejudice against this minority are rare because they have lost faith in the police and the justice system. Just 3 weeks before Samira's murder in Klang, another trans sex worker was beaten to death. Despite opening investigations, the police quickly concluded that neither case was a hate crime. In 2018, a Sharia court sentenced 2 women to caning for allegedly attempting homosexual relations, and state officials have physically and sexually abused transgender women during raids. Trans women now primarily fear violence from ordinary people, such as clients, partners, or vigilante groups. State agents, by propagating discriminatory beliefs, contribute to an environment that fosters hate crimes and fail to condemn violence when it occurs. Another similar case involved a trans woman who was allegedly murdered in 2019. It was reported that she was thrown out of a vehicle on Jalan Batu Nilam, Klang, Selangor. According to the post-mortem report, the victim died from serious head injuries sustained from falling from a moving vehicle. She also had cuts on her nose, knees, and left eyebrow, but there were no indications of a struggle on her body. The car was being driven by a man believed to be her client. The man argued that he was angry with a transgender woman for stealing his phone. According to a South Klang District Police Chief, Shamsul Amar Ramli, the driver became enraged when the transgender woman denied taking the phone. In an attempt to escape, she voluntarily jumped out of the moving vehicle, leading to her death. However, it is difficult to believe that a sex worker would suddenly steal a client's phone and leap from a moving vehicle unless she felt her life was in danger. Despite these circumstances, the police insisted there was no hate crime involved, and the case was not further investigated. Things are just not adding up, and the similarities with other cases of violence against transgender people are hard to ignore. Some may argue that these actions are justified by cultural and religious norms, but discrimination and violence against transgender people are unacceptable in any context. Many religions emphasize kindness, respect, and acceptance towards all individuals. The principle of love thy neighbor is timeless. So why is it so easily forgotten? To date, there have been no updates on the individuals allegedly arrested in connection with Samira's case. Her death remains a focal point for human rights movements, as the police have not acknowledged the possibility of hate crime involvement. We extend our condolences to Samira's family and pray for her soul to rest in peace. That concludes our discussion for today. Thank you for watching.